So, for those of you that participated in the Monday mailbag series, number one, thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't know that there were that many people that were going to send me questions. And number two, if your question didn't get read, well, I'm trying to keep it down to about 6 per video, but there's going to be days where I don't have content ideas, but I want to still give you guys something to grow the channel. So, I'm going to take those questions and turn them into one-off videos. And this one comes from Mark in Trenton. Cole, who are some non-major contenders in each power conference that could sneak their way into the title game? It's a good question. I'm going to switch this up just a little bit and talk about teams that really aren't being brought up enough in conversations, whether it be at the national level, on other podcasts, here on YouTube, whatever it is. I want to talk about these teams because they're really well put together and they deserve some love as well. But real quickly, if you're new to the channel, my name is Cole Thompson. I talk college football daily. If this is the type of content you enjoy, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode of Just Saying It. Of course, hit the comment section with your thoughts on which team is not getting enough love that could be a contender. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends, family, mortal enemies, best of bros, college football fanatics about this channel, because I'm on the race to become not just the #1 YouTube show with our favorite sport, but the #1 college football community. And at the same time, go ahead and leave me a comment. Make sure that also you're subscribed to me on all the social media platforms. And if you want to be a part of the Mailbag Monday, or you just want to have a one-off video, email me. ColeThompsonWriting@gmail.com. The link is right down there below. And also slide the DMs on Twitter, because that way I can interact with you guys nonstop past just YouTube. All right, surprise contenders in each conference. I'm going to switch this up a little bit. FanDuel, I know people are looking at the odds. They're talking about some teams that might find their way into a conference title game. My rule is you can't be talked about enough by me or by somebody else. And number two, you can't be a top 4 contender. So what exactly does that mean? Well, basically, if you're an Ole Miss that isn't expected to go far, but maybe can, yeah, okay. If you're an Arizona that isn't getting a lot of love, but I talk about you a lot, I'm not going to put you in this video. If you're, say, I don't know, an NC State, I talk about you way too much. So best of luck. I do believe that you are going to be a contender, but it's just got to be a little bit more nuanced. I want to talk more about other teams that just don't get the praise. ACC, Syracuse. You do realize that Fran Brown is one of the most respected coaches in college football. Like, if you talk to anybody from the high school level, from the development standpoint, from other position coaches across the SEC, and high-profile ones, I'm not talking like Mark Stoops, I'm not talking like Clark Lee, I'm talking like Kirby, Nick Saban, Brian Kelly. They'll all tell you Fran Brown is one of the best when it comes to selling a program and developing talent. Well, now he's going to do that up Northwest, back in New Jersey, or back in New York. And he's got a really good defensive coordinator by the name of Elijah Robinson, who also was a great recruiter down in the South. And they did a really nice job with the transfer portal additions. Fadil Diggs comes on in from Texas A&M. They also bring over Jackson Meeks from Georgia. Isaiah Hastings comes on over from Alabama. James Hurd comes on over from West Virginia. Zeed Haynes comes on over from Georgia. They got some guys. They also have a very manageable schedule. You get to the heart of the season, NC State on the road, Pitt on the road, West Virginia. Those are some tricky games. And then you close out the year with Miami. Do you really feel like any of the other games are going to feel that different for you? Like you shouldn't be contending? Kyle McCord, whether or not you liked him at Ohio State, the pressure to be the next heir apparent of a 2-time Heisman finalist in CJ Stroud, that's not going to be there at the Carriers Dome. That's not going to be there up in the Northeast. That's not going to be there in the ACC. And there were moments last year where, yes, you were bailed out by great competition, but McCord also was pretty significantly decent. He threw for over 300 yards in multiple games. He had a good rapport with an excellent offensive line. If you get any version of that to where you can find a way to mitigate the flaws and just build a harmonious roster, why can't Syracuse be good? Like, I get that the hype around Fran Brown is a little bit too much when it comes to him as a head coach, because he's never called a play, whenever it be a coordinator, whether it be as an actual head coach in the building. But he seems like he's got everything on the row. He's got his ducks in order. Why can't this be a team that actually does something in the ACC? And if at least anything else, they end up not being a team that goes to Charlotte, they are a team that stops somebody from going there. This is a team that I know Josh Pate loves. I know a lot of people on YouTube love. Iowa State. It's really hard for me not to pick them. Like, I really want to go with Arizona, but I talk about Arizona too much. I thought Kansas, but they're a top 3 team in the boostings. West Virginia was one that I considered, but I've been bringing them up so much. You do realize that when it comes to returning production, a big staple that last year played a major role for a team like Missouri, a major role for a team like Ohio State, a big time role for Washington. This is where Iowa State's going to win. Like, and they're going to win really big. 86% of their roster is back this year. That is basically the entire team on offense. They lost really only 2 key defenders defensively. They also only lost 1 major starter to the transfer portal, and they upgraded at almost every other spot. Go ahead and look at who's back. Rocco Beck at quarterback. Okay. Abu Sama, their leading rusher. He's back. Jaden Higgins, your leading receiver. He's back. Jalen Noel, he's your second receiver. He's back. Benjamin Brahmer, who's a 6'6" tight end freshman. Yeah, he's back. You also added in Eli Green from North Dakota State. Now, a lot of you probably don't watch the FCS the way that I do, because I'm literally a sicko and will stay up until 2 in the morning watching ESPN Plus. But Eli Green last year was the number 1 receiver for the Bison that went all the way to the quarterfinals, almost at 1,000 yards, and now you're asking to be a number 3. Their schedule's manageable. Like, much like we talk about with Arizona, if they were to go in their first 2 or 3 games, walk out with wins, or at least split the series with Utah and Kansas State, how would you feel? Would you feel like that's a team that probably now controls its pathway to the playoffs? The only difference between that and Iowa State, they play them at the end of the year. Start off with Iowa, Arkansas State, Houston, Baylor, West Virginia, UCF, Texas Tech, Kansas, before they close out the year with Cincinnati, Utah, and Kansas State. It's manageable. It is. And the crazy part is when you think about Matt Campbell, people say they passed him on by. Yeah, maybe. But at the same time, Kirk Ferentz loves living in Iowa City. Kirk Ferentz loves being the Hawkeyes coach. If there's not a job to where you feel like that you're really upgrading, like a Notre Dame, like a Michigan, like one of the premier blue bloods in college football, do you have to leave? Like the Big 12, the thing that stands out so much about it is the continuity. It's basically the old school football that we love, and it's why I consider it to be the best conference in the sport. And now you have such continuity in terms of the adaptive rosters. Everybody is kind of on an even playing field. So, like, you look at the odd totals and you say, okay, well, why is this? Why is this? Why are we not talking more about Iowa State? They have everything there. They have a manageable schedule. They drop one of those 2 at the very end of the season, they might just go ahead and get the rematch in Arlington. It's very possible. Big Ten USC. That's still weird to say. Can we all agree? It's weird. It's always going to be weird. It's never going to be fine with me. They currently do not have top 4 odds in the Big Ten. That's even weirder. They currently come in at number 5 behind Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State. And largely it's because of the defense. You got to admit, it's because of the defense. Yeah, you're going to always have great offensive consistency. Whether you get Miller Moss, whether you get Diego Paiva to play quarterback, either one is going to be really good. You have Zachariah Branch. Last season, he was a joystick on special teams. He's going to be a joy to watch on offense. They also brought in D'Anton Lynn. And that was a really good move for your defensive coordinator. The hires that I really loved were the names around him. Matt Entz, especially at linebackers coach. Like, do you remember what Matt Entz did when Chris Kleiman left? Carried on the tradition of North Dakota State being not just a good program, but a damn elite one that probably should have garnered the same type of attention as Kennesaw State, the same type of attention as Sam Houston State. And now he's going to be the linebackers coach, hopefully getting his shot to eventually make the jump to the Power 5 level as a head coach. Yeah, their schedule's difficult. You start off against LSU in Las Vegas. Then you go to the Big House. Then you play Wisconsin. Then you play Minnesota. Then you play Penn State. Then you play Washington. Then you close out the year with games against Nebraska with the top defense, Notre Dame with the top defense, and UCLA, which we have no idea what the hell they're going to be. But this is Lincoln Riley. This is an offense that we know is going to score a lot of points. What if D'Anton Lynn does his job defensively? Like, what if this was the hire of the offseason? And this is where Lincoln Riley goes and he humbles himself, kind of like Eli Drinkwitz did last year, kind of like Jimbo Fisher never decided to do, kind of like Les Miles never decided to do. But he goes and hires a dude that's his friend, hires a dude that he has no idea about and had a great defense last year. And they end up going a little bit better than expected. Even if they were to split the series between Penn State and Michigan, But then they beat up on everybody else. They get a win over LSU to begin the season. It's not far-fetched to say, yeah, they're going to be at least in contention. I don't think this is the year for USC, but would it shock you with the offense, with the consistency, with the play calling, the schematic designs of what Lincoln Riley does? He at least makes things interesting down the stretch. Far from it, in my opinion. SEC, Texas A&M. I know I said I was going to pick a random team. It's really hard to say that Texas A&M is not the sleeper. And again, I don't even like the term sleeper because in the SEC, every schedule is difficult. But I did think with Mike Elko coming on in, with what is here defensively, they have one of the best defensive lines in the country. I'm not saying in the SEC. I'm saying in the country. Nick Scorton, the Big 10 Defensive Player of the Year, comes on over. Okay. That's just an added bonus. Isaiah Rakes is back. Not Isaiah Rakes, my bad. Shamar Stewart is back. Shamar Turner is back. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy is back. I mean, there are names that I'm not even going through right now that are going to be plug-and-play additions on this team. And they also added in 2 excellent defensive linemen in their last recruiting class. They need a number 1 wide receiver, but they have some guys on campus. Noah Thomas, Mahoos Muhammad. I love the addition of Isaiah Williams. Guys, pure speed. Like, the guy would have been flying down I-45 if you would have gotten an opportunity to see him. He would have been flying on Interstate 20 down in Florida. Now he's going to be doing it in College Station. They have a good offensive identity. We don't know what version of Connor Wegman we're going to get in this new play calling. We also don't know what the running backs are going to look like, but kind of like we talked about with a guy in Colin Klein, if he would have had DJ Giddings and Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards, he's got the running backs. What if he has a quarterback that's a little bit more mobile? And even if not, like, we still don't know what the entire persona around Connor Wegman is. When he played, pretty significantly good. Like, pretty very much an upside from whatever was here before Jimbo Fisher, and certainly during the Jimbo Fisher era. And defensively, you are trusting Mike Elko, who the last time he was here had not only one of the best defenses in the SEC, one of the best defenses, period, in college football. You avoid playing Alabama. You avoid playing Ole Miss. You avoid playing Tennessee. You avoid playing Georgia. Your toughest games are Missouri, Texas, on the road at Auburn, and Notre Dame. And let's just say you go 2-2 in those games. You're 10-2. You're 10-2, and 10-2 is good enough to still be in the playoff hunt. Not to go to Atlanta, but definitely in the playoff hunt. So I'm not counting out Texas A&M. I don't think that they are a 10-win team. I think that they're more so an 8-win team, a 9-win team, but we've seen crazier stuff happen before. Who's to say that, much like we saw a few years ago when TCU, with all their players in one possession matchups, went down to the wire, another Lone Star State team can't do the same thing. I want to throw one more in here. And it's not a conference. It's just in general. I do believe that eventually we will see a group of 5 team find a way to win against a Power 4 opponent in the college football playoff. And if I'm going to say it this year, it's Memphis. It is. And I know that I'm really high on Memphis, and I know that I did a video talking about Memphis not too long ago being the favorites in the AAC. It's because they are, and they well should. You don't bring in a quarterback like Seth Hennigan and keep him around where he throws for over 3,000 yards each season and not be a favorite. Oh, by the way, they still have their leading running back, and they also have their leading wide receiver in Rock Thomas. They just brought over Jair Shorter. For those of you that don't remember him when he was at Auburn, that's okay. But for those of you that do remember hearing that name, he was great at North Texas for 2 years. They have a good defense. They just added in Elijah Herring, the linebacker who led Tennessee in tackles last year. They return almost 80% of their production. 78% of Memphis's roster is back this year. My bad. 72% is back. Are we sure? Are we sure that with this team, with this aura, with how much talent is returning, plus they're going to be able to play a few games against Power 4 opponents to kind of get a baseline of where they're at, they can't be well equipped to do battle as a 12 seed, maybe even as an 11 seed? I don't know if it happens this year, but what I will say is if I'm going to make one crazy bet, it would be that if the group of 5 contender is Memphis going to the postseason, they're making it to the Elite 8. That's all I'm going to put out there. I like this Memphis team a lot. But let me know in the comments section down below. Who did I miss? Who did I hit on? Am I right on Iowa State, Syracuse, USC, Texas A&M? What about Memphis? Are they going to get the upset win? Also, like, rate, review, subscribe. Tell me what you want to see moving forward. I got more questions. You want to be a part of the mailbag on Monday or one of these videos, email me. ColeThompsonWriting@gmail.com. Slide in the DMs on Twitter. Message me on Twitter. We'll do one-off videos. I like this type of content. Make sure you tell your friends, family, mortal enemies, best of bros, college football fans, everywhere about this channel, because we're on the race to become the #1 college football community. And until next time, hopefully you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I am Cole Thompson. Later. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. That's awesome. Thank you so much. But before you leave, make sure that you hit subscribe. And if you want to check out any of our other great work, make sure you click on one of the videos here. Am I pointing at the right spot? I'm not entirely sure. I'm really not.